9:42 de la mañana, Lavrov ha estado en el G20 en una charla en la que ha puesto las claves en ese G20 ante sus contrapartes del G20 de la situación actual en la guerra de Ucrania. Vamos a escuchar a Lavrov.
I assume that the people who assembled here, they are political scientists. They are interested in following the international developments, and if this is the case, then for the last 20-some years, they should have understood the reasons why we are concerned about the Western policy towards Russia very well. Yesterday, I think, the French ambassador to Israel, who was personally participating in the discussions between the Western leaders and Gorbachev, he confirmed that there was a commitment not to expand NATO. And then he added, but this does not mean that Russia is right in what it is doing in Ukraine. But between the lie about not expanding NATO and the events which started 1 year ago, there were so many developments which you cannot overlook. The lies continued, including the lies not about some oral promises, but about some commitments on paper. In OSCE, Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, during a summit in Istanbul in 1999, the political declaration was signed by the presidents and the prime ministers, which said security is indivisible, and the OSCE participants are all committed to equal and indivisible security. Then they stated that each country is free to choose alliances, but in doing so, no country can strive to strengthen its security at the expense of the security of others. And then another principle was signed by the presidents and the prime ministers, according to which no country and no organization in the OSCE region can pretend to dominate militarily. If you read it again, it's clear that NATO violated all these commitments. By the way, it was 1999, and then it was repeated in 2010 at another OSCE summit in Kazakhstan. And when we started to ask questions, guys, you committed yourself not to increase your security at the expense of our security. Can you stop expanding NATO? They said, well, this is just political commitment.
But Minister, wait a
second. Look, if you ask the question which I'm trying to answer, that means that you don't know what I'm telling you now. So when we said, okay, you said this is political commitment. Let's make it a legal commitment. Let's put all these principles in a legally binding treaty. Indivisible security. You know what they told us? They said, legally binding guarantees of security can only be obtained inside NATO. Just looking into our face. We told them, look, President Obama signed this particular paper. Well, this is political commitment, forget about this. And then there was another legally binding commitment, the resolution of the Security Council, which endorsed the Minsk agreements. It was very, very astonishing that all those who signed the Minsk agreements, except Putin, publicly admitted that they never intended to implement this particular Security Council resolution. So, no delivery on
importante está diciendo Lavrov en el sentido de que está aduciendo frente a lo que se estaba opinando en parte de Occidente de que hay que volver a 1991, el movimiento de exrepúblicas soviéticas saliendo del entorno soviético. Ellos, Rusia, aduce a los acuerdos de Minsk, que son los que estaban firmados, entre otros por Putin, para intentar ver cómo la OTAN no se acercaba a las fronteras de Rusia. Con lo que, ojo, porque el posicionamiento o la fotografía de Occidente y de Rusia es de momentos históricos distintos. Los acuerdos de Minsk plantean una fotografía muy diferente a 1991, que es donde Occidente está poniendo el foco a la hora de que las exrepúblicas soviéticas salieran de la Unión Soviética, se independizaran de la Federación Rusa, pero Lavrov está hablando de los acuerdos de Minsk como punto fundamental firmado por todas las partes, que apuntaba a que la OTAN no podía acercarse a las fronteras rusas. Escuchamos a Lavrov.
Denied the right to use the Russian language in education, in media, in culture, in everything. If you check the Ukrainian legislation passed after the coup brought to power this neo-Nazist regime, they legally canceled everything what has to do with the Russian language. And when the people...
¿Y puede aguantar Alonso?
In the east of Ukraine and in Crimea, said, guys, leave us alone. We are going to follow your policies. They were declared terrorists. And it is the regime who started the war against these people. That's why the Minsk agreements were considered, the way to stop this. And it was not very difficult to implement the Minsk agreements. It was about the special status for a small part of the east of Ukraine, much smaller than the territory which is controlled by the Russian army now, much smaller. But they didn't want to do this because the special status to be given to this small territory included the right to use the Russian language. And this in itself was considered a taboo by the Nazists who took the power in Ukraine through a coup.
Habla ahora Lavrov de la importancia de los acuerdos también en 1991, cuando Ucrania y Rusia, Ucrania se independiza, pero llegan a una serie de acuerdos sobre la población rusa que seguía en Ucrania. Habla sobre todo de temas de lengua, ¿no? de mantenimiento de la cultura de una determinada parte de la comunidad rusa que mantenía en Ucrania y que sin embargo no se han respetado esos acuerdos, siendo atacados precisamente por seguir utilizando, pues por ejemplo, la lengua rusa. Lavrov está centrando ahora el discurso un poco en la parte más cultural de los acuerdos de Minsk, que intentaban resolver no solo ese acercamiento de la OTAN hacia las fronteras rusas, sino también cómo las exrepúblicas soviéticas mantenían gran parte, aunque fuera dentro de su independencia, ese apoyo a la población rusa que se había querido mantener, por ejemplo, en este caso, en territorio ucraniano. Lo que está diciendo Lavrov es que no se respetaron esos acuerdos y esa comunidad estaba oprimida dentro de un territorio que había sido anteriormente soviético. Seguimos escuchando a Lavrov.
Just like they admitted that they did not intend to implement the Minsk agreements, they never intended to implement the thing they promised the Serbs in Kosovo.
But the war,
I think I stop
this
here.
military campaign, or whatever you call it,